right, and with that, joining me on the Brian Nichols Show, he is a busy man, definitely putting some miles on his car. He is on the, let's see, it's the Be Free tour. There we go. I got it right. Anthony Welti, welcome to the Brian Nichols Show.
What's up, man? Thanks for having me on. I've been looking forward to this for a few months now.
As have I, Anthony, because candidly, you are one of the shining beacons of positivity that we need to have in the greater liberty movement. I fundamentally believe good people bring out the good in people. So let's bring more good people into the greater liberty movement. You're on a mission right now, driving all the way across the United States. Good luck with all the discussion of possibly shutting down borders, Anthony. But before we get there, right, let's dig into who you are, right? Let's introduce yourself to the Brian Nichols Show audience. What got you into liberty politics to the point that you're going to drive across the entire United States, starting from one coast to the other, and thus far you're in Montana?
Well, like so many of you, I got tired of getting pushed around, right? I get tired of the bad policies kind of poking me in the chest, affecting my life, affecting my family, affecting people around me. But unlike many, I didn't come into the libertarian movement through Ron Paul. I actually came in via Obama. He turned me libertarian as a former, Seattleite Obama, Democrat voter. His lack of follow through with whistleblowers and Assange and Snowden and such really turned me off. And then Obamacare. I was an insurance agent at the time. And I knew Obamacare was such a cozy deal for the insurance companies. It was one of the first things that really woke me up to free markets and things of that nature. So, that path brought me into the liberty movement, the Libertarian Party. And since then, I've just been learning and also having things unveiled to me, right? Seeing the way things work and how harmful these policies are. And now I believe in unabashed, complete liberty for all as the only peaceful form of non-governance on earth, right? It's the only way where we can actually peacefully coexist, in my opinion. And our libertarian principles allow for that. So I'm happy to be a libertarian. I'm working, every single day to not only grow the Libertarian Party, but really trying to create people on the streets that want liberty for others, that want it not just for themselves, but for their neighbors and their community. Because I believe that's where the tipping point is, the cultural tipping point in actually seeing liberty in our lifetime is creating people that want liberty for others.
Yeah. And so I'm actually fascinated. I'm so glad you said this, is that traditionally we have people in the show and you say, how did you become a libertarian? Well, Ron Paul, Harry Brown, Rand Paul, you go through the list. Yeah, even some Gary Johnsons. I will throw that in there, but rarely, actually, that's not true. Maybe not rarely, but maybe not as focused upon have we heard Obama. And it's not because he did good things on his side, but rather because he didn't follow through. And I got to say, Anthony, it gives me a little bit of hope because we're seeing right now, and let's start, with the conversation, we'll set for posterity's sake. We're recording here on September 16th, and we're in the middle of 2021 of the COVID endemic. We're out of the pandemic phase at this point. We are now kind of into this flu-like world. And you're seeing more and more people starting to, I think, ask more questions because they're starting to get pissed. They're starting to see that, well, I was told, and I'll tell you right now, I have at least, right top of my head, 5 to 10 people I know in my immediate circle who they got the vaccine. They've been wearing masks. They've been doing all the things that they were told to do because they were waiting for their cookie. And they haven't gotten their cookie yet. And those people are starting to say, what's up? I'm getting pissed. What are we doing? To the point, I'm hearing people who never would have considered leaving the Northeast now actively shopping for houses in states like Indiana. So I say all that because the fact that Obama pushed you, you said Northwest, Washington, Portland hippie, right, to go and say, you know what? I'm going to support these guys who are the polar opposite. Get rid of the state. Let's go ahead and empower your average person. That excites me, knowing that that is what got you there. And we can see there's starting to be a little bit of a push. People who are starting to say that they're fed up. So you're going around the United States, Anthony, and you're talking to your average person. What's that conversation you're hearing? Are people getting fed up, and are they looking for some new solutions?
Yeah, they absolutely are, and it's in droves. I mean, it's literally by the bucketful. I mean, I've been essentially traveling full time for over 2 years now, both as a candidate in the state of Washington, cross country with Spike Cohen, the VP candidate for the Libertarian Party, on the bus tour with him, and then now for about the last, what is it? I don't know, 9 months or so, actually year or so, up and down the West Coast, myself, just independently, and everywhere I go, there are people that are so fed up with things that they're skipping the transition from Republican or Democrat to Libertarian, and many of them are going straight anarchist. They're like, I'm done. I'm never trusting any government again. Because a lot of people aren't truly Republican or Democratic. They're centrist moderates. They're people that kind of want to be left alone, kind of like some government. And then when this happens and they just literally get waterboarded by government for the last year and a half, so many of them are open to the libertarian message of free markets and not little tinkers here or there, not like, well, we could do this or we could do that and make things a little bit better, but rather we should abolish the CDC and the public health department. We should abolish departments of like labor and industry in Washington so that people can be free. And, that was a slogan, be free, that I picked for my campaign way back in 2017. And now through the last year and a half, it's become more of a mantra than anything, but it's one that people can relate to, because for the first time in their life, they are feeling the boot of government on their neck, on their back. Whereas maybe before, it was little and unnoticeable and palatable. So, what I like to do now is speak boldly about these libertarian principles, the abolishment end of things, because people are ready and willing to hear it. And that's important for two reasons. We have to take advantage of this opportunity to give them something that no other politician has, right? Democrats and Republicans get elected because they give the voters things. What we're doing is we're giving them permission to be free, and that's empowering. And while doing that, we have to also focus on solutions and helping expose, individual issues. As I was campaigning for insurance commissioner through COVID, I'd already been talking about CON laws, certificate of need laws, and how it reduces supply for care, right? And how that drives up cost. And then willy-nilly here, the government stops allowing elective surgeries. Hospitals are overflowing, quote unquote. And I had an opportunity to really draw the line and the parallel and say, see, look, if we hadn't let these corporations and the hospital boards and government collude with one another in a true medical fascism type of a system, we would have more hospitals. We would have more organic care, in the sense that things would be more fluid and less rigid. There'd be less boxes to check and more ability to have doctors just do doctor things and take care of folks, instead of worrying about which rule is going to come down that dictates what their standard of care is. So people are ready for this. It's working. And it's really empowering to me as an activist to really see the fruit of some of the labor that so many people put into this movement for years.
It's exhausting because we do a lot of labor and it doesn't seem we get a lot of reward, but thankfully it's starting to change. And I think let's go back to a part you raised up here. And this is something we should start focusing on, right? Your average person is likely in that centrist moderate. And I think to your point, it goes back to they just want to be left alone, right? The don't hurt me, don't take my stuff. I like it. But then they have also kind of been conditioned to view a lot of government stuff across the board as normal. And if it's normal, as a sales guy, I say, you mean status quo. It's become the standard almost. So how do we disrupt the status quo? Well, first, it starts you get to go in knowing what's the problem. What issues are they likely seeing that I know people like them are currently seeing? So if we're talking to that centrist moderate, I can't think of a better thing to focus on right now than the healthcare, the lockdowns, the impact from an educational standpoint. I mean, folks, like here, we'll take a time out. I'll talk to the audience for a second. Go look at the past month, 2 months of shows. You'll see a reoccurring theme: lockdowns, healthcare, education. There's a reason for it. Oh yeah, in sales and marketing, of course. But there's a reason for it because these are top of mind issues. And if we're just going to be sitting here talking about God knows what, we have our libertarian pet peeves we all care about, right? Whatever it may be, if you want to go talk about monetary policy, by all means, go for it. I've had a gentleman on the show who we dug into the rule of monetary policy and it was phenomenal. But if we're only going to talk about the niche things to the niche group of people, we're excluding an entire bell curve of people who are open and empathetic, not just to our message, but also to the solutions we will bring to the table right now to the problems they see. And it's marrying those two worlds together. It's the Clark Griswold grabbing the two extension cords and bringing them together, and it sparks explode right when that moment it hits that they see things don't have to be the way they are. We don't have to embrace the suck, embrace the status quo. We can, in fact, start to say, why are things the way they are? Why, Anthony, why are there so few hospitals? And if you can ask that question and get them to start genuinely digging into the data banks of their mind, like, yeah, why are there so few hospitals, right? And if all of a sudden we have some answers, and then we can say, and here we can make it better. What are we doing? Why aren't we doing this? It's Peter Griffin in Family Guy when he goes in for the stem cell and he comes out. Why aren't we funding this? Why aren't we libertarians? We need to make sure that we're doing the things that work. So when you're talking to people, Anthony, what's working? What are people saying? Is it the be free? Are they saying give me freedom? Or are there other things that they're seeing more in their specific, I guess, lived experiences? What's happening in their families? What's happening in their relationships? Has things gotten weirder under COVID? Is that the conversations you're hearing?
Yeah, I mean, I think you make a lot of important points there, but the main thing that I think is important as activists is understanding, like you said, that it's not necessarily our issue that's important when we're in a conversation, right? It's what their issue is. Now, the good news is for libertarians, we take issue with pretty much everything. So that makes these conversations easy if we allow them to happen. And what I mean by that is ask questions, right? Identify who you're talking to, get to know them, even if just briefly in 10 or 15 seconds at a start of a conversation, but give them an opportunity to tell you their story, whatever it is, right? I've yet to find somebody that loves everything that government does, right? And while many of these folks will inherently want different solutions off the bat from what you or I might want, we have to give them an opportunity to tell us what is, they're most frustrated about. And then when you do that, that opens the door. And of course, every door that's open sometimes isn't going to ultimately stay open, right? And you're just not going to be able to reach somebody on a given day. But you're going to have a heck of a better chance to do that if you're addressing something that is important to them. And then if you can provide a solution to them that makes their life better. It's really that simple. Increasing the number of hospital beds right now would make people less scared that they would die if they got sick, whether it be from COVID or another ailment that has them going to the doctor's office, right? If they would be less scared of a medical illness if they didn't think it was going to bankrupt them, right? And we can talk about the things that reduce the cost of healthcare until we're blue in the face, and that comes easy to libertarians. So these are real issues that are affecting people today. And Republicans and Democrats literally have nothing to offer on these topics. How do we know that? Because every single year we hear the same thing over and over. We hate Obamacare,
sure do.
Right? We hate Obamacare, or we want Medicare for all, and then nothing gets done. So, traveling across the country has really shown me that a couple things. It's confirmed that everybody's diverse, right? That's something that liberals will talk about. That throw it around as a buzzword. But libertarians kind of embrace that in our culture, and who we are as individuals. And seeing it as I've traveled all over the country, it's really hammered that home to me that, this country really is special. There's a lot of different people and different ideologies and different, ways to live life. And our peaceful solutions are the only ones that really truly allow for that, to bring prosperity. And when I talk to people about that and I'm providing them solutions, that are going to actually help them accomplish it, they might not be libertarian, right off the bat, but we're building a trust right? We're building a rapport that even if they disagree with me on the topic, they're probably not going to hate me. Especially when it's a one-on-one conversation or a coffee shop meeting or, something of that nature. A little different on social media. Everybody hates everybody on the internet. So, but it's been a lot of fun having those conversations. And it's truly, I think, bringing people into this movement. When I ran for office, my campaign kickoff party, we had over 100 people show up for a libertarian kickoff party. And the vast majority of those people were not libertarians. They were a lot of liberty-curious Republicans and independents, and a handful of Democrats that had been listening to me for years. And while they might not agree with me on everything, they trusted me. And they trusted me because even when we disagreed, they never saw me as hypocritical. They saw me as consistent in ideology, and they trusted that. And they also believe in things like, the two-party system is bad, right? So even if this Anthony isn't perfect, he's part of the solution. Or, we shouldn't have career politicians, and maybe term limits could help things. Or, maybe, ranked choice voting would be good, right? Things of that nature. And or that maybe politicians, should be transparent and, be held accountable to, at very minimum, what they say, right? So we built trust with people over years. And I think that's what helped make me successful. And that's what we're doing on the tour now, is kind of amplifying that process, but also trying to teach it to other libertarians, so that this movement can, push back instead of playing defense. I'm sick and tired of playing defense here against the statism and the government authoritarianism that we're seeing. So I want to help empower this movement to not only draw a line in the sand, but to actively start pushing back against the bully in the room.
They trusted me. I wrote that down and I put like 6 stars next to it, because everybody who listens to the sales and marketing shows have heard me say it at least once. People do business with who? People they know, people they like, and people they trust. Yeah. It's so fundamental that we do not enter into the conversation once every 4 years. And I'm sorry, LP candidates, up to this point, that's what we are. We are the candidate who shows up when it's time, not the candidates who are there and constantly building that sense that not only can I trust you, but now I can look at you as the trusted advisor. I can admit there are things I don't know as the citizen, right? We'll actually go back to, like, I forget the specific gentleman in history, but it was the Politico, where the term politico actually came from. And it was that the balancing of, do I do what I'm supposed to do based on what my constituents voted on for me to do? Or do I go in and say, you're electing me to do a job and I'm going to use my best judgment? And he was able to kind of marry those two words. And again, whoever it is, please help me out, get the guy's name. But that was the first origination of the word. And I think right now we can almost take that and apply it to what people are looking for again in politics. They are looking for a sense that the person they're talking to is a genuine, authentic, real human being who they can then say, I can look at you to say, Anthony, I don't know everything. I don't know the answers to healthcare. I don't know the answers to economics, but I know that you study this stuff a lot and you dig into this stuff a lot. So I'm going to vote for you to take this off my hands right now. This is an entire separate conversation, because we've now conditioned that this is the mentality of, I give this person the ability to basically control my life. But rather, our message is, listen, I know that you don't know everything about economics. I know you don't know everything about healthcare. However, I don't either. And candidly, everybody else up here in Washington, they don't know anything either. You know who knows the best about healthcare? Your doctor. You know who knows the best about your economics? You, when you go out and you purchase things and you go to stores based on what you like. You know who knows the most about your environment? You do, because you live there. You see your environment every single day. So if we can start to channel the conversation not towards what can we do for you, but rather what can we help you do for yourself, right? Based on the resources and the really, it's a think bank of people out there, just a brain trust, there we go, of people out there who you can leverage that have all the answers. But then to assume that we can take all those people in the infinite variables of things that they bring to the table and concisely and effectively put that in government, and then to say, and they're going to do it right forever with no human instinct or behavior coming into the equation whatsoever. And it does kind of baffle me, because we can say it. I see you smiling. We can laugh about it. But like your average person, they vote for consistently. So, and that's the challenge, right? So, Anthony, this is why what you're doing is so important. I keep on going back to that, like the going out and speaking to your average person. It is so important, because if you're able to help reframe the conversation, and I always say this, we need to stop responding to the narrative. We need to start setting the narratives. And that starts with having the people who right now, they're looking for the solutions. And part of the reason they're looking for solutions is back to the entire thing I started this tirade on. Trust, right? They have lost the trust of the institutions that told them that they were going to do the thing that they were empowered to do. The FDA failed in terms of getting testing out. The CDC has failed in terms of giving accurate information to the American public. The NIH director has failed in his ability to maintain some type of a consistent narrative. So people across the board are looking at these people who make way more money than they do because they're the experts, and they're saying, sorry, I don't trust you. Now it's on us to help enter into that conversation and show we can become that trusted advisor. Am I on the right path, Anthony?
Yeah, and I think trusted advisor is such a great word, right? And I think it's why it's important to be credible as possible when it comes to having these conversations. And what I mean by that is have a breadth of knowledge that's got some backing to it. So, for example, just be studied in what you're talking about, and many libertarians are, of course. So I don't think we have that big of a problem here. But at times, though, as candidates, how should I put this? Actually, let me rephrase what I was going to say. That when I ran for state insurance commissioner, I picked state insurance commissioner for a reason. I picked it for a handful of reasons, but one of them was the fact that I'm actually a licensed insurance agent, or at least I was at the time. So I knew it instantly lended credibility to my campaign, because I've been doing that specific job as a profession for 10 years in the industry. It really helped elevate a level of trust that people had right off the bat. And at the same time, it allowed me to point out some of the flaws in government that, like, usually most people in office don't have a clue what they're talking about, right? The guy that, owns a restaurant, right, has, an idea of how to run a restaurant. And he's talking about, banning guns, as if he has any idea about self-defense, if he's never taken a self-defense class or shot a gun, right? Or, and that extrapolates over a number of positions. So it's important when you're running for office or when you're talking to people to talk about things you're credible in, if at all possible. So study your things, make sure you have well thought out ideas and solutions. And if you do it consistently over time, people will begin to trust you, even if they don't initially. I've got so many people, years ago when I was speaking out here in Washington about, medical freedom, how government was putting children on registries, for their vaccines to attend schools, and then taking away medical exemptions like the personal exemption, for, let's say, the chickenpox vaccine. So now you only have a religious exemption, or how they even took away the religious exemption for some vaccines, right? And even how the government forces military veterans to get vaccinated, right? And now, as all this stuff is happening and their hospitals are overfilling, right, people are seeing the things that we've been talking about for years. And what helps sets us aside in this case from the Republicans who pander about free markets or cheaper healthcare costs or more freedom or liberty, most of them have aided and abetted every single department that's being used right now, right? The Republicans don't support abolishing the CDC. They've empowered the CDC. They fund the CDC, right? The Republicans don't care about the immunity that the vaccine manufacturers have, and if and when they injure somebody with one of their vaccines. They have had many opportunities to abolish that law and have never even taken an opportunity at it. Libertarians right now have an opportunity to outshine all other politicians by saying this lever of power that is being used to hurt you in a tangible way in your life that you can actually see because you've been put out of your job for the last year should be abolished so that it never hurts anybody again. And anything good that you think that department was doing, I'm happy to help you, find ways to do that in the free market. You want safe medication? I want safe medication, right? We can do that without empowering government to take the lives of people one job at a time. So standing on principle firmly right now, stronger than ever, I think is what lets us stand out from the hypocrisy that we see from the left and the right. And while we might think many people are misguided in their policy ideas, the reality is most of them just haven't been shown a better alternative.
Yeah,
so this is our opportunity.
I was going to say that, but also that they haven't seen that our ideas, even if they are right and they agree, can actually have a chance to get implemented. That's the challenge I think we have sometimes, is showing, and we go, yeah, we're going to go back. Jeremy Todd's listening right now. He's giving me a thumbs up, because when people are looking to make the investment, right, they want to make sure that the time that they're going to put into it, plus the reward and the results, right? If they're not going to get results, why am I wasting my time? So when you talk to your average person, we can almost all get them to agree on a lot of the issues, but then when they go to the ballot box, they do something silly. And we constantly are bashing our head against the wall, because instead of saying, maybe it's us, we instead just pretend that, next time they'll vote libertarian. Well, what we have to do is instead show we can win. This is why what, Spike was doing, and he still is doing, the culture of winning. It's so important, because if we can not only show that our ideas are important and that they're right and win the battle place of ideas, but instead they can also win in the battle place of politics and actually make a difference, well, now you have my attention. I mean, there's a reason that all these stand-up comedians for the past, I would say 30, 40 years, up until it didn't become popular to go against the president, and then also it did again, they were all weary of authority. And everybody would laugh along with it. George Carlin made his career basically just destroying the government. And everybody would resoundingly clap and laugh along with him, because even though they would go and vote different ways, they all believed it at their core. Well, right now it's a chance for us to get those people to laugh along with us to the ballot box. So with that being said, Anthony Welti, what a conversation. I really enjoyed this, my friend. I have at the bottom of the screen here on the YouTube, folks can go ahead and see that. Your social media scrolling across. But for the audio listener, where can they go ahead and find you?
Yeah, theroadtoliberty.com is the best way to stay in touch with me. This is a website used to track the tour, where as we go from Washington to Florida, we're hosting political rallies, medical freedom rallies, speaking out against the lockdowns, and providing coaching and trainings to libertarians all over the country. So that's where you can follow the tour. We've also got a blog on there. I'm trying to get off of Twitter and Facebook, or rather they're trying to get me off of their platform. So I'm trying to build a little bit of my own as a way to stay in touch with people. And we've actually got some forums on there that are just getting going. These are a place for libertarians to go and have conversation with other libertarians. It's not meant to be a public facing forum of any nature per se. It's meant for candidates to connect with other candidates, to share resources and supplies, for volunteers to say, hey, I'm good at doing XYZ, who needs help this week. There's also a forum on there for county affiliates, so county chairs across the country can stay connected with one another and ask questions on best practices and express frustrations with what's with what's going on in government, what's not working in their chapters, and things of that nature. Because my focus right now is helping make this party more successful. We've all heard, or maybe even at times used the phrase, this is why libertarians can't win. And there's a lot of reasons. And I think in many cases, those complaints are reasonable and right. So a lot of what I've done as an activist since I came in 2016 with the Gary Johnson campaign is try to fill the holes, just help with what we are doing bad at, and help to really just try to fix it. Right. It's easy to say this is why you can't win, and then to do nothing about it. It's why I focus so much on running a credible campaign in Washington so that people could begin to trust the libertarian brand. While I didn't win, we created 250,000 first-time libertarian voters in my election.
Wow.
324,000 total, compared to 99,000 the cycle before. And now those people are beginning to trust libertarians, right? And one of the things, as you said, we have to win, so they believe that it's not a wasted vote, things of that nature. So many people saw me as the clear, only reasonable option to vote for. That when I didn't win, it gut checked them for the first time in their life. They'd never seen an election where I'm essentially running from two people that both have mental illnesses, and I lost. And I don't say that phrase to be hyperbolic. They are both ill, and I didn't attack it in my campaign. I actually ignored it because it wasn't important. But my followers knew it, and when we lost, they saw the failure of the political system. So there are many ways to win in elections, even if you don't actually get elected. So I'm traveling the country trying to share that message and teach people how to identify measurable wins, make intent-driven action plans and goals, so that in time we can see liberty in our lives.
Man, wouldn't that be nice? And just the way things are going, isn't it so important that we're doing what we're doing? Anthony Welti, thank you so much for joining us, folks. If you want to go ahead and continue the conversation, don't worry, you're not going to have to go ahead and follow all social media. Just by listening, go ahead to your show notes. Click the artwork there in your podcast catcher. It'll bring you right to the Brian Nichols Show website, where you can find not only the awesome notes for the episode, but also entire transcript for today's show, as well as all of Anthony's social media links. Anthony Welti, be free, my friend. Thanks for joining the Brian Nichols Show.
I'll see you all on the tour. Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Brian Nichols Show. Find more episodes at briannicholsshow.com.